3 wildfires, 0 containment, 20,000 acres scorched so far, and at least 140 homes, cabins, and other structures gone, destroyed by those 3 days of raging flames fueled by prime fire weather and dry, dead vegetation. Awful to see that. Clearly somebody's home and their vehicles there. All right, meanwhile, a look from above showing a different growing problem for many people away from the flames. The smoke, the plumes continuing to head north to the Canadian border, and that includes Ely. And you can see that effect from the ground. Katie Sage sending us this video from Ely, where the skyline is really a smoke line hovering over that city. The flames nowhere near Ely. Good evening to you on this Tuesday. I'm Dan Hanger. Thank you so much for being here. Here's what we know right now on the continued firefight in St. Louis County. The first fire and the biggest one breaking out Sunday, Camp House fire near Brimson. Remains the biggest of the three. More than 12,000 acres, 0% containment, 80 personnel battling the flames there, which includes 32 engines, 6 dozers, 12 water tenders, and of course that air support. Most of the structures destroyed here by fire have been from the Camp House fire. Meanwhile, just off to the west and also in St. Louis County, the Jenkins Creek fire continues to burn after being ignited in prime conditions yesterday. That size, 6,800 acres, 0 containment, 22 personnel. On this one, of course, ground and air support. And then here's a look at those 2 fires on a map. You'll see them in the red there from officials at the Superior National Forest, really showing the side-by-side wildfires and the areas affected, including a large area around the fires closed to campers at this time in the forest. More on that on our website, fox21online.com. And the third fire, not as big, still a fight, 1,500 acres burned, 0 containment. The fire here, which is the Mungershaw fire in Cotton Township, 25 miles southwest of the Camp House fire. Let's talk first forecast now as we continue our coverage here with the latest on the weather conditions and how everything's being affected.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the size of this fire here. So this is our own drawings of this. So again, Camp House fire was the first on Sunday. Monday afternoon, we had the Jenkins Creek fire. Again, Skybo is the one community that has been evacuated. Hoyt Lake about there, and then we have the Mungershaw fire, which started about mid-afternoon Monday, well farther down to the south and west. So combine these 3 fires, 20,000 acres, or just over 31 square miles. To put it into perspective, this is my best drawing of what 20,000 acres looks like over Duluth. So you can see it's covering a location that if it were to happen here, you're basically talking from Proctor to I-35 up towards about Hunters Park, neighborhood area region there. So it is bigger than this because those estimates for the size came this morning. And of course, today was another day of some pretty good fire conditions. The good news is red flag warning has been allowed to expire, and you can see the relative humidity levels as they do in the evening and overnight increase. So a lot better than what we have been seeing the past couple of days. Also good news is that the winds have been not as strong as the other 2 days. Still getting those gusts 20 to 30 miles per hour, but yesterday they were getting up to 40 miles per hour, especially out west. High temperatures today, though, still well into the 80s across the region, but you do see right next to the shoreline a little bit of cooler readings, and that is the case right now. 54 at our studios. 51 at the Bong Airport, 50 Sky Harbor, 43 Port Wings. So yes, the lake is still cold and it can make its way across the shorelines, but it can only go so far, even in this late evening hour. 73 in Ely and in Hibbing, still 79s, Big Fork, International Falls, 75s, Hayward and Ironwood. It is still clear skies, but you do notice maybe a few clouds starting to creep on in as they make their way towards the Upper Peninsula and northwest Wisconsin. A sign of a change on the way, as we do have one storm system to our south that's going to at least bring a little instability towards us. But everything out here is what we're going to be watching for on your Thursday, which is going to break all these extreme and very high fire danger levels that have been plaguing us the past several days here. So 50s for your lows tonight, back to the warmth, a little bit more of a lake breeze tomorrow, along with some pop-up showers and thunderstorms. So we'll talk about all that and have more on what to expect the next several days with the full forecast in just a few moments.
Rusty, thank you.
Last night was there's a lot of our firefighters out there with no sleep, really tough conditions, and pretty dangerous fires that are out there.
All right, day 3 there of those 3 large wildfires continuing to burn out of control. Like I talked about here, 20,000 acres so far, dozens of homes, cabins, vehicles destroyed tonight. More resources are being called in to try to gain some type of control sooner than later. Meanwhile, Minnesota has called in a larger incident management team to deal with all this. They'll be solely tackling the Camp House fire and Jenkins Creek fire as one, which will now be called Brimson Complex. State officials believe this will better coordinate efforts to get control of those fires while allowing current crews to disperse to other fires throughout the state, littler ones. Governor Walz says the struggle is very real, with Mother Nature producing a whole lot of flames earlier than usual.
Just to get an idea of what we've been dealing with this fire season, Minnesota experiences a little over 1,100 fires a year. We've already had 970. Sunday alone, we had 40.
All right, and we are in Two Harbors here in just a bit, where officials gave an update there, which is about 30 minutes away from the ground zero of the fires, you could say. And as we went up there, we went to that incident command center. It's located there for the Camp House fire, which will now be the Brimson Complex. The Two Harbors there, about 30 miles south of the wildfires. Minnesota Incident Management Team providing the media with an update on firefighting efforts, describing the difficult condition crews are facing now for days.
As those trees torch and go up, it throws out embers or firebrands in the smoke. Usually the darker or blacker columns throw out more particulates with it. With those spots, they can basically go everywhere like confetti. So with that, there's usually 10, 50, even more spot fires with a large group torching, making it very challenging for firefighters. Unfortunately, it can kind of turn into a whack-a-mole situation where there's fire here or there. They do their best again to mitigate that.
Two Harbors and the North Shore are not affected by the current fires. They continue to move in a north and northeasterly direction, as Rusty was showing on his maps there. But it just shows with the big scope of this effort and people coming from all over the place outside of Minnesota. All right, and tonight there is an official evacuation center set up to support anybody affected. It is the Friedenberg Community Center. I believe we have a graphic for that. 5104 Fish Lake Road in Duluth, as you see there on the screen. It is a coordination effort with the American Red Cross and, of course, St. Louis County. That is part of their duties to work together to make sure everybody is safe, no matter what the emergency is when it comes to dealing with Mother Nature. Could be floods, could be, frankly, the explosion. We had the Husky explosion back a few years ago in Superior. That's what they're all trained to do and be there for us. Next, potential causes of these wildfires. 3 different potential causes from St. Louis County Sheriff Gordon Ramsay. That and more. We're back 60 seconds. Well, like we talked about here, there are no official causes tonight on the 3 St. Louis County wildfires, but Sheriff Gordon Ramsay has an idea for all 3 of them. He says the Camp House fire appears to have been started by an unattended campfire. The DNR is said to have identified the owners of that campfire, and they're currently investigating the situation. The Jensen Creek fire may have been caused by somebody discarding a cigarette as they passed by Highway 16, as the fire appears to have started at the roadway. The Mungershaw fire, Sheriff Ramsay believes, to have started here on a farm when a bale of hay caught on fire and quickly spread. Sheriff explaining the homeowner called immediately, but it was already too late. By the time fire crews got there, all the fires remain under investigation. Really something. I mean, how many times do the officials constantly tell us when there's red flag warnings about what could happen? And sometimes they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, here's an example, a big one. Here we go. Now, while this is obviously really devastating, I mean, think about this. It's sometimes really hard to put things into perspective. But if that's your family cabin, even your car, when you go out and it's burnt, it's just done. Yeah, you have insurance, but it's a whole process and you lose things. But especially if it's your home or your family's cabin on the water there, and so many memories and that kind of thing. But I guess the really, really good thing before I tell you this nice little piece of story is that nobody's been injured. at least that the authorities know of, and nobody's been killed, at least that the authorities know of as of right now. All right, here we go. We're talking about that really stressful time here for the first responders. Well, Chick-fil-A in Duluth donating 60 meals, that's 60 today, to the wildfire crews. This didn't come from them, and it was not expected. St. Louis County Sheriff's deputy stopping there to order 30 meals to bring to some fire crews. But when the staff heard what his plan was, a quick call to the higher-ups apparently doubled that order, and for free. That's the way to do it. Getting prepared to fight wildfires is difficult. One of our sister stations in the Twin Cities showing how the DNR gets ready to battle the blazes. Here's that.
When you're fighting wildfires outside the city,
this is a pump right here.
You don't have the luxury of a fire hydrant on every street corner.
Drawing water out from a river, lake, pond.
You either have to pump the water or bring it with you.
The Type 4 like this engine carries 850 gallons of water.
And sometimes you have to go places a normal truck just can't go.
This is one of our track vehicles.
Working in the woods, equipment is everything.
They can climb over large logs or debris.
DNR fire prevention specialist Karen Harrison says they're putting a lot of miles on their equipment this week.
First thing in the morning, we're checking over every vehicle every day.
Their field office in Cambridge is seeing a few calls a day.
It's really hot, it's dry, and it's windy.
We stopped by just as they were switching the sign from very high to extreme fire risk.
I'm telling people, don't be fooled by the green, because if you look closely, there's still a lot of dry, dead vegetation.
About once per day, they're even calling in air support. This video was captured on Sunday showing their helicopter dropping water on a wildfire in the North Metro.
It's very helpful to have.
Tom Simone works on the flight crew. He says a team of 3 crew members and a pilot respond to calls that need extra help from above.
We land, we get out, we put this bucket on, and we go to work fighting the fire.
But despite all of their equipment, their greatest tool is prevention.
Anything that you're doing right now, any spark could create a wildfire, and because of the conditions, it can spread really rapidly and get out of control.
All right, and now to our Fox feedback question of the day. We asked on Facebook here, have you been affected by the wildfires in northern Minnesota? Kim said, my daughter-in-law is there in Hoyt Lakes with family and for work. It has been so stressful. She works in Virginia tomorrow, and I'm worried about her and her family. Yeah, because one of the fires there is, I think it's about 15 miles or so south of Hoyt Lakes. Brenda says her sister's home here was completely destroyed. Look at this. In the Camp House wildfire, leaving her and the kids with nothing, their clothes, belongings, family memories all gone in minutes. They escaped with their lives, but have been left with the overwhelming task of starting over from scratch. And they do have a GoFundMe set up for this particular family. I know people want to help. We're still waiting on like an official group type place that people can donate to. Of course, the Red Cross, they'll get it over to the locals too. But anyway, we've got that on our website, fox21online.com. Click on the links tab. But yeah, when you see that, it reminds me of California.
Yes.
In the Palisade fire that they had there and killed people.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So again, nobody's been, lives have not been lost. And even injuries, when you think about all the first responders coming from everywhere, the helicopters, everything going on, there's a potential for something bad to happen just with accidents.
Absolutely. But fortunately, this fire has had a pretty steady pace in direction, so they can plan for that.
And one big thing, actually, that I've noticed in a lot of the releases from the Superior National Forest and other people, those drones, a lot of people like to take the drones up, it will cause chaos for them. Like, you're supposed to stay very, very, very far away, because as soon as they see those drones, everything's going to stop. All the suppression efforts are going to stop because it's so dangerous for the planes and everything else flying in and out.
Exactly. They want to control the airspace because that is their best efforts to do what they can do in the air to stop these fires.
Beautiful shot you have right there. We'll be right back with more on your forecast.